Hello YouTube. Today I'm working on this beautiful Century 21 by Ten-Tec. Got this on eBay and it looked very rough. I took a chance on it, hoping it would clean up, and I'll put some before and after pictures in here, but when I got it, it was actually much better than I expected, and I just gave it a gentle wipe with a wet paper towel and it is beautiful. So the only problem is PTO is stuck, so I need to rebuild the PTO. I did turn the radio on, everything seems to work. I did get some output power. Whether the finals are good or not, I don't know, but yeah, so I'm gonna try to unstick the PTO. It's all the grease in there dries up. There's a little worm gear kind of mechanism that's driven by friction, and it's all clogged up with dried up grease. So I'm going to do that now. I'm super excited about this radio. It's a CW only transceiver. You can receive SSB, but yeah, transmit is CW only. So let's open it up. So here we go. Beautiful 70s electronic engineering. Look at this. How can you not love these old machines? Look at all this aluminum. So we need to remove this box here, which is where the PTO is. It's not a VFO, it's a PTO. I think it moves basically like a slug in and out of a coil to tune. Anyway, let's start taking this apart. Now, I noticed when I picked it up, listen to this. So it's, I don't know if you can hear that. It's actually full of seeds, like little bits of sunflower seeds, and so there must have been a little mouse or something living inside here. He was just happily chomping away on all the little seeds that he found, living his best little life. I just hope he had a good life and didn't get too fat while he was inside here. I hope he went off to be a happy little mouse somewhere. Okay, moving on. Here we go. I just turned it over and we have our little seed collection. Okay, fortunately, we have no mouse in here. And it doesn't look like much of a mess, so I don't think he was in here for very long. Maybe it was a rough night and he found this little warm place to hide seeds and munch for a while. So we need to remove this board and the stuff on the front, because this screw is one of the screws that holds the PTO in, and the other one is underneath this board. Sorry for the cell phone here. I don't have much room to set up a little tripod right now. Maybe I'll do that when I start needing two hands, but we'll get this board out, get this stuff taken off, and try to remove the PTO. This is the bottom of the unit. It's upside down. And I'm surprised because I expected this to be a bunch of wires and components soldered end to end. I just completely forgot that these were all on separate PCBs, so it's very clean. I did notice that the speaker is already marked. So here's the positive lead, and you can see a little plus sign there. So don't actually need to mark it if you can read it. And we'll just remove those wires to get the bottom cover kind of separated so we don't risk yanking something out over here. Okay, let's just maybe we can dump the rest of the seeds. Okay, I think that's most of it. Okay, I dug through the garage, and we'll try this. This is the smallest one I have, and I can't read what size it is. And that works, but that's tight. Those are tight. Okay, just a moment. Doesn't want to come off. I don't know if it's just stuck from years of the screw just fell. Oh, the screw just fell out. Okay, just a second. Just pull kind of hard. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, I have all the knobs off except for this one. This one is a small flathead. All of these are really tight. Okay. That one's also wrapped. I may have to pull that. I may have to desolder that bridge. It's so short. Nah, it's hooked. It's hooked through there. Just cut that off. Okay, there's one side free. Let's keep these wires together. And we'll do the other side. Let's look at these. Let's clip those. I guess I'll just remove the nuts for anything that isn't coming off with this panel. That's attached at the back, so it looks like, yeah, so all the front nuts for anything that isn't directly attached just to the front panel. Okay, so I removed everything except this nut because that headphone jack is attached to the panel. I started to think about desoldering this headphone jack, and then I realized that it's attached to the front panel. All I have to do is take the nut off. Duh. So, yeah, let's do that. Then we'll be free of this. Okay, that side is free. Let's check the bottom. So the dial needs to come off, the style card. And you just pry this washer off. So I will do that before I take this nut off. I don't really want to slip and crack this thing or scratch it, or, you know, anything can happen. So let's just get that out of the way. I'm just going to put the nut back on so that I don't have to try to get the screw back in that hole. I took the ground lead off. See if we can get it back on. Here we go. Come on. There we go. That's the screw. Can you see that? I don't know if you can't see that. That's the screw we want. Okay. Okay. Those screws go into the PTO. So this needs to come out. There are two plastic washers behind these screws that space the PTO out from the front of the, and probably electrically isolated from the front of the panel. Well, no, I guess it's not electrically isolated because the screw is metal. It's going into the metal faceplate with no washer, so those are just spacers. I'm expecting those two to fall in a minute here. Okay, almost there. Almost to the harder part. Okay, so we need to desolder some wires from the PTO before we can continue here. Looks like only 3. Got a coax and 2 wire. I'll have to pay attention to the colors there. Oranges on the end. Okay, I'll take a picture of that with my phone, even though I have video, just in case I lose the video. Okay, those are free. I was able to just apply heat and pull down on them with needle nose pliers, and they just unraveled. So I think all we have left is, yeah, just 1 screw. We just have this 1 screw, and then this should just pull out. Oh yeah. You probably can't see that, but it's completely frozen in there. Doesn't turn at all. Okay, so the next thing is to remove this set screw, or loosen the set screw and pull the drive gear off the shaft. Next we remove the 2 screws, and there's a steel washer underneath this plastic bushing or end cap. So we need to make note of those steel washers and where they go. So we have this end cap that looks like it holds a spring. It's very greasy. 2 washers and 2 screws. Okay, so we have a moment of confusion here. The instructions say to pull out this roll pin. There's a roll pin back there. But how do you get to it? The roll pin is down inside the metal case. Do I need to back this out? I mean, it doesn't turn, so I can't back it out. Well, it's a mystery. Let's do some Googling. I'm assuming, I mean, there's a spring here, so this must move this way, and that must come out a little bit because there's a spring on the other side too. So somehow I need to get that to move out without breaking something. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray a little deoxit in this little bearing in the front to try to loosen up this grease so that I can turn this. I think if I can break the grease free, you know, maybe I can see what's going on here. Nope. No, that is that's just jammed solid in there. Let's do a little more Googling. Okay, so I finally found the PTO rebuild manual. Took a while. None of the articles that I read or the videos I saw had a link to it. They all talk about it, but they never tell you where to find it. So I did finally find it. I'll link to it in the bottom of the video. And what I figured out was that you have to push on the shaft like that to access that pin. Okay, you need to mark the side that you pull that pin out of so you can put it back the same way. But once you do that, the bearings may fall out from there. One of them did. And then you can remove the shaft, allegedly. So I'm going to do that now. The battery died on my phone, so I only have about 10% here. I just wanted to show that I did find the solution. So I'll pull this apart. I don't think there will be anything surprising. I think what will happen is I'll get the 3 bearings out, and then this shaft will just pull out after I get the pin out. And then I'll wipe everything down and I'll be back. Okay, so I pushed the shaft in, and that exposes where the bearings are, and there's holes right there. The bearings were stuck in with grease. They wouldn't budge, so I picked, well, except for one of them, I picked them out, this little pick, wiped them down with alcohol, gave them a little tap, they finally fell out. When they fell out, this smaller shaft pulled out because the bearings were holding the shaft in by the little indent there. So now this whole shaft is loose, and it looks like I can just unscrew it from the slug and it'll just come right out. So there we go. Moving on. Also on this end of the shaft, when I pushed it forward, I pulled the pin out. I marked where the pin was with the slug all the way to the back. I marked it, and this is what came off. I have a black washer, which looks like plastic, a nylon washer, and then the pin. So black, and then the white pin, the white washer's on the outside. Okay, here's where we're at. I pushed the shaft in, and I removed that pin. There's a spring washer, steel spring washer, and a nylon washer on the outside underneath the pin. And then I removed the bearings from the shaft up here in this bearing race. I had to use alcohol to break down the grease so that they would fall out, and I was able to shake them out. And then I took this nut off of the shaft that went across here with the spring on it, this guy. That's not broken, it's actually designed that way. Loosen the nut, and then you pull the shaft out, take the spring out. And then you push this race out from the other side. You can just push on it and this will come out. Once that's out, you have to carefully pull the pistol out from that coil. But once the bearing race is out, you can do it. You slide it out gently, you can pull it out. So here's everything we need to clean. We need to clean the bearing race, we need to clean the threads inside there, we need to clean all this stuff. There may be grease inside that inductor coil. I think I'll just gently wipe that out. And then we re-grease everything and put it back together. There's also the spring that goes here, and there's a washer on each side of it. And I did drop this little pin, and it took me a while to find it. It's extremely small. It's hard to tell how small it is, but it's very fine. It's almost like a piece of wire. So I was happy to find that. And it's not magnetic, so good luck finding it. If you lose it, you're not going to find it with a magnet. I think it's stainless steel. I just did the dog crawl for a while. Anyway, yes, I wish my workspace was more organized so that I wouldn't lose things like this, but I have a lot of hobbies and a limited amount of space. So, okay, clean this up and we'll start getting it back together. Okay, so I've cleaned out the grease from the inside of the pistol and I've put that back in. And then I pushed the bearing retainer and the race in there, and I put a drop of super glue according to the instructions, just a drop to hold that in so it doesn't spin at some point in the future. And then I put this rod back in, and now I'm going to put the spring and the little wedge and the nut back on to push on this, and it's going to go through the pistol. And then the nut will be over here, and that keeps, you tighten it down against this case, and that keeps the shaft from unscrewing and pulling out. I greased this shaft. I'm using Super Lube synthetic because lithium grease will eventually dry out and I'll have to do this again, so hopefully this lasts better. or last longer, excuse me. Kind of congested today, so okay. So I'll do that. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so inserted the rod in the spring and the wedge that's right there. Put the nut on, screwed it in, tighten the nut against the case, and I greased this part K, which is the driver shaft. And you screw that all the way in until it bottoms out. Like that. I think it actually goes a little further. No, that's right. And then you grease this shaft. Insert that. So it feels really smooth right now. Okay, next step. Okay, so now we need to put the pin back in. I marked it there, so with the drive shaft all the way in, should be able to push this. Yeah. And I need to put it in the hole that matches the mark. It's from the top. They basically say just from the top in the documentation. And it is tiny. It is tiny. There we go. Spring is, there we go. It's interesting, the spring is binding a little bit on the shaft, maybe because the, oh yeah, because the bearings aren't in there. Okay. Okay, moving on. Okay, so now we need to push the shaft in and drop the bearings into the little bearing race in there. This may be difficult. Okay, we'll try these. I think we will put some grease on here. Yeah, I think you need grease in the hole to make the bearing stay in. There we go. And they're in. Okay. Now the ramp washer. I thought this little angled wedge up here, maybe I called it a wedge. Yeah, that's the wedge. This is the ramp washer. It's a washer with a little, it has like a little ramp on one side. It's not just flat. So the ramp goes towards the pin. And you rotate it until it sits flush. Rotate it clockwise till it sits flush. Then you put this nylon washer on. It says the smooth side goes towards the ramp washer, but both sides look smooth to me. But so that goes on there. Okay. Okay, so next we have this cap piece, and it has the spring in it, and there should be another washer, which I don't see. So where is it? Maybe it's in there. Yeah, there's a washer in there. Yeah, so we'll just clean the grease out of there. We'll clean the spring. Okay, so now we have this cap. And the washers go between the cap and the PTO case. Like that. Still little bits of seed everywhere. Put a little grease in there for the washer. And we'll get these started. So we have to get all these holes aligned. And I don't think it's there. That's in. This is not lined up. Somehow. There we go. Feels so tight. Oh, no. Feels okay, I guess. Let's just adjust this. Make sure it's not rubbing that shaft on the top. Spring guide or whatever that is. Okay, it's starting to loosen up a little bit. It's still a little stiff. Okay. Yeah, it hadn't dawned on me until now. You know, like I said, it was really hard to turn the shaft, but the inner shaft runs on those bearings, so it's really like a reducer. The shaft, like a drive reducer, so yeah. That's actually very smooth. Cool. Okay. Okay, so we're putting the PTO back in place. And we have these screws. This one has the spring. And then each one gets 2 nylon washers between this plate and the PTO. This could be a little challenging. Get these started so that the washers can't fall off. Okay. Now that it's started, I can move these wires out of the way. Make sure we don't have any wires pinched underneath, and we do. Get that out of there. Okay. So the so the dial has a gear that rides on this tiny gear here, and I'm guessing the way you do this is you rotate the shaft all the way clockwise, and then line up this last notch, the center. And it should drop into the gear like that. And we just put this locking one-way washer back on, spring washer. Okay. So that's just a big ground plane. There's no reason you couldn't just mark it and drill a hole so that you could access that screw without having to take this board out. We have to reconnect this little ground wire, and we left the nut on this screw, so all I need to do is go in from the back and get it. Okay, we're back to the top. We have a couple wires that need to be reconnected. But I believe we can start putting the face panel back on. I'm only using water. I don't want to risk damaging the silk screen on here. Nicotine. Try a Q-tip in there. It's not right. This way. All right, so everything is together, and we have the last step here. I had one bad bulb, and it was an 1892, and I couldn't find an 1892. It's a 1.7 watt bulb, but I went to O'Reilly and I found this 1.9 watt bulb. Can't talk. I met this pretty interesting guy, Brian, and he was into electronics and vintage computers and machine language programming and TV repair. Very cool. You don't run into people like that very often. Brian, you know who you are. Hope to talk to him again soon. Anyway, let's see, does it fit? Yes, it fits. Oh yeah. There we go.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. 5959 New York. New York, over. Thank you for the fund, 73, vamos a revisar el audio. Okay, Echo Charlie 5, Charlie Sierra Whiskey. Echo Charlie 5, Charlie Sierra Whiskey from November 2 Tango Oscar. November 2 Tango Oscar, thank you for the call and good evening. I appreciate your patience. 5858 New York. New York, over. Thanks so much. I have your call, okay? Echo Charlie 5, Charlie Sierra Whiskey from November 2 Tango Oscar, 5858 New York. New York, over. Okay, this is Charlie Sierra 505, 55 Sierra from Echo Charlie 5, DC5, Charlie Sierra Whiskey. Roger, thank you. You're 5-8, man, 5-8. Echo Charlie 5, Charlie Sierra Whiskey from November 2 Tango Oscar. Good job, I appreciate your patience, and have a great weekend.
Because we have a contest going on.
Contacts made on the DXnet in an hour and a half, so that's not too bad. One every 3 minutes or so, not too bad, but not nearly as good as what we usually do. Thank you everyone who participated, and we look forward to catching you next week, Monday through Friday, 2000 Zulu to 2130 Zulu. So this is November 4, Whiskey Foxtrot uniform, now closing the 14247 DXnet and returning the frequency to regular amateur use. 7-3 to everyone, and 4WFU clear.
All right, so there you go. Fixing my Century 21. 73.